Hi guys, welcome to my channel and this video. If you can't tell by how I look like Valentine's has thrown up on me, happy Valentine's Day! So I don't know when in the timeline of my channel I'm going to post this, but currently I'm in my 50s month. But I'm going to take a bit of a break from doing my 50s month to embrace Valentine's. Come with me. One of the reasons is the fact that capitalism has got me. When it comes to a holiday, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get the earrings, I'm going to get the headband, I'm going to get the top. It's just what I'm going to do. So I need an excuse to wear it all. I'm single, by the way. I am. Doesn't stop me. I'm working. Yeah. This is me at home at my desk. Yeah. I'm like, no cameras on today, please, people. They don't need to see me like this. It's Ace Week next week, I believe. And there is a readathon going on from people that I follow, some Ace accounts that I follow on Instagram. They are doing that. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just embrace that. I need a bit of a break from the 50s anyway. So let me just do like a 24 hours reading romances. Specifically, I'm going to try and read Arrow Ace romances. Yes, just like this. Yes, because you know what? It's a spectrum. And there are some who will be like, absolutely not, can't think of anything worse in terms of like the Arrow Ace spectrum. And then there's others who are like, I can wear all of the gab, and it doesn't actually mean anything into how it translates into my real life. Like, I can still love reading a romance, love watching a romance, and still be very grey about it all. Do you know what I mean? Which is where I kind of align. So I've already 2 hours in. I started last night actually, because this is gonna last over Valentine's, Galentine's, and the weekend. Whenever I can finish, whenever we get it. I say this is like a 24 hours, but I'm actually thinking I might cut it down so it's actually reading romances until I get sick of it. Okay, so I've read 2 hours, and the 2 hours that I've read was this queer normative cozy erotica. It was a good time. And I'm about 2 hours in. Sorry guys, I don't know why I'm so cringe. So I'm just here to talk to you about the first book that I read, because I never actually spoke to you about it. I'm just here to talk to you about the first book that I read, which is In the Care of Magic, I believe. Apologies if I've got it wrong. It'll be on the screen now. If I am wrong, apologies if you're listening to me, okay? And you're not watching the screen. It was actually really, really wholesome. It was, to me, it was an erotic, cozy fantasy. And I know that sounds like a lot of words to shove together, but that was exactly how it feels. So our main character is Julian, I believe. She's a witch. And she's got this cute little quirky like shop where she sells her potions and all of her remedies to the local town. And the town, they're humans, right? And they go to her for whatever they need. Whatever they need, she's got it. And I would kind of imagine this town, like, the vibes that this town gives me is basically like the town in Legends and Lattes. So that's what I mean by that cozy small town feeling. But to be honest with you, the humans, they don't really treat the witch with any respect. They kind of are just using her. They just see her for what she can give them. And when we meet her at the start of this book, she's burnt out, right? She's like, I've had enough. You guys, you work me like a dog day and night. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and you don't respect me. You don't ask me no questions. I have feelings too. Do you know what I mean? So she's like, do you know what? Peace out. I need a holiday. I need a break. And so then she goes off into, she's got a cottage in the middle of the woods. And so she goes off to her cottage in the middle of the woods for some rejuvenation. And then while she's there, she's like, do Do you know what? Do you know what I fancy? I do fancy a little bit of good times. So for some reason or another, or for somehow or some way, she summons a sex demon. And then that's when we get introduced to Lyle. It's basically just following them together, having good times. But the reason why I say this is like so amazing and is because it is queer normative. And I just loved it, guys. I loved how like queer normative it was, in the fact that like it was just chock full of like different representations. As I said, like Lyle has neopronouns, which I really enjoyed. And I saw some Goodreads reviews who were like really struggling with it, struggling with the usage of it. And I think that's what I think. I think because I'm never gonna front you guys. Did I have to look up online like the pronunciation of the pronouns? Absolutely I did. Absolutely I did. But we keep it moving, and it's on the readers themselves to do that due diligence and to just keep it pushing, because they're like, oh, it sounds like a robot, and I'm like, do you know what I mean? Anyway, that's the point. But also, like, there's pansexual rep, there's fat rep. Like, I don't believe she's small either, and I really appreciate that too. What else? Oh, and the main reason, apologies if it looks slightly different, I got a phone call. But the main reason why I'm reading this book for this vlog is because it's got arrow rep, right? As in aromantic representation, right? Because it's arrow week. I think I said somewhere near the beginning that this was ace week, and I really, really apologize because it's not ace week at all. It was arrow week. So, I mean, it is arrow week. So, apologies for that. And that's my own fault because I didn't pay enough attention when I was online. So, yeah. And if you want to hear more about, like, what's going on this arrow week, there's a really good podcast by the Ace couple. And they really introduced some legislation to recognise arrow week, which is amazing. So, I'll just, like, link that somewhere. But anyway, back to this book, In the Care of Magic, right? It's got arrow rep, and I really, really appreciated it. I appreciated it in the way that this is still, to me, a romance book, because recently I've been seeing people talking about, I don't know if it's me or whatever, but it's like, can you have a romance book if it doesn't have a love story? No. And I'm like, well, what would you call this book? Because they're not in love. They're having a good time together. They give each other companionship, but they're not in love. This isn't a romance. And I think one of the reasons why it was really good was because there was thought there. Like, I feel like when incorporating sexy times with magic, it could be very easy to just keep the sexy times like how they would be between like two humans. But what I really appreciated was that the author did think outside of the box a bit, and like there was magic used and was introduced into playtimes. Yeah, like, do you know what I mean? There was toys, but they were magical. So it's like, yeah, I'm down with that for real. Like, if she's a witch, like, let her be a witch. Let her be a witch. So that was good. I'm gonna give you time, if you're watching this, to come and pause it or come and skip forwards, but like you're not at your phone. And I'm going to do that by explaining me and my thoughts on spoilers. Now, you might hear me often say mild spoilers, because I like to know, like, very, very little before going into this book. Like, for example, every single book that I'm going to read for this, I know virtually nothing. I know, like, virtually absolutely nothing before going into it, and I like it that way. Like, I will know, like, the very, 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 very top note. Like, this book I knew was queer normative and had arrow rep and was a witch and a sex demon. That was it. Like, I didn't know how they met. I didn't know nothing about the situation, the setup, didn't know nothing. And I appreciate it that way. But at the same time, like, I recognise that some people, like, for example, that's why there's a blurb. We wouldn't call a blurb spoilers. So this is when I would say, like, mild spoilers, right? I'm going to delve deeper than the very, 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 very top note that I would probably, like, try and skip past. But it's not really going to spoil anything significant in the story. But when I go spoilers for real, then that's when it's like, everyone would call this a spoiler, right? So this is just mild spoilers. So you can stay if you want, or you can go if you don't want. So he's a sex demon. But there were layers to that. It was like, I have to do this to live, but it's not something that I necessarily take pleasure from. And I do enjoy that conversation, and I guess it's kind of like conversations to do with like sex work, you know what I mean, because that's basically what it is, but in like a magical setting. And so I enjoyed like just touching on that, just delving into that slightly. It didn't like go the way I'm talking about it. You might expect to go into it and expect it to be a whole book talking about the intricacies of sex work, and that's not what it is. But you know, there is like a kind of nod to that conversation, which I appreciated. And I also really appreciated the burnout conversations as well. because I think a lot of people can relate to burnout or know people who have like had burnout and stuff, and that feeling. So I thought that was really well represented in the book. Anyway, that's it. That's all I'm going to say. But I really enjoyed those conversations because again, if you know them feelings of, this is supposed to be a rest day, but I'm resting, you will appreciate those conversations. But again, as I said, that's just like mild spoilers. It doesn't really factor that much into the book. So there we are. Hi guys, I'm just interjected to say that I never actually really told you about the aromantic rep in this book, and that is the whole point of this video. So let's correct that. Yeah, I really enjoyed how it was done. I really enjoyed how it showed a sexual relationship and how that doesn't necessarily have to be linked to a romantic love or relationship. I really enjoyed that. I also enjoyed how steamy it was whilst talking about aromanticism. So it is really good at showing the distinction between the two. And so it's not always a conflation of asexual people and aromantic people, because yeah, whilst there is some crossover, there are also people who are like firmly aromantic but also allosexual. So you know what I mean. I really enjoyed how it was that side of the representation, which I think is not rare, but on the rarer side. In fact, quite rare if we're thinking about the like full spectrum of romances. I think it's quite rare to see an aromantic erotic romance. Do you know what I mean? But I really enjoyed it for that. I also thought that was lovely in the way that it showed like a strong platonic love and companionship at the same time, like, and that was also good to show, and but also be distinct from a romantic love / relationship. I really appreciated that as well. And the thing is, I think that it was really good because it shows that like you can still evoke that satisfaction feelings, those comforted, all of those feelings without automatically linking it to being romance. And I saw some Goodreads review and she was like, do you know what, as someone who romanticizes everything, this was like really refreshing, and a reminder to them that like not everything has to be romanticized. And that is something that I feel very strongly, even though I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm like aromantic. Do you know what I mean? So again, I agree with that commenter in that it's really nice to show people like not everything has to be romanticized. Like they can just have a really comforting, happy relationship, right? That is intimate and sexual, but not romantic. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that immensely. Anyway, so all in all, I had a good time. And I want more books like this, actually, I do. But anyway, I'll just let's get back into what I read for the rest of this video. A Wall is a manga novel. I think only 2 of them are out in English at the moment, but there's 3 in total, and it follows this woman who's asexual, but she loves reading boy love manga, and that's her main passion in life. She gets married to this man, and he is gay and in love with his childhood best friend, but he's in the closet, so it's kind of like a marriage of convenience in that way. We just get to follow them. It's kind of like a slice of life, and we just get to follow them in their marriage as they both try and show up for each other as partners, but like they're both like grappling with these parts of their identity and the fact that they're not like a regular married couple and stuff like that. And so I really enjoyed it in the fact that it kind of shows like a queer platonic relationship between the two of them, and how they both are trying to show up for each other in the way that they think that the other expects. And it's kind of comedic in the way that neither of them really want like the traditional advice on what you should do for your husband or what you should do for your wife. Like, for example, there's this scene, mild spoilers, it doesn't really mean much, like it's so insignificant of a moment, but for example, there's this scene where they're like, oh, what should I cook? Oh no, he's gonna want this. And so she goes and looks up like what to cook your husband for breakfast or something, and he looked up what to cook your wife for breakfast, and they're both like and they're like, hold on, should we just like make it up ourselves and do what we want to do? And one of the main plot lines is, as I said, she loves boy love comics and he's gay. And so when they move in, she's got like these boxes and boxes of these manga. And he's like, what's this? And she's like, no, you can't read it. Don't have a look. Don't read it. And he's like, ah. And then he picks up and he sees that it's like boy love. And he's like, oh, no. I must read it to get to know my wife, for the benefit of my wife. Yes, I must do my research. And it's so funny, like watching that relationship between the two of them. But yeah, I found it kind of sad in a way, like reading about this guy who's yearning for another guy, but you know, it's just, and it's not even that, it's like a mix of homophobia and unrequited love, because he's closeted, but at the same time it's unrequited love. So it was just sad to me, because you know what I mean, sometimes you just want to see people like be in romantic love if that's what they want. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, like, it was really beautiful to see him be fully accepted by his partner in the end. But yeah, so as for the ace rep, I reckon that like this has had some like key moments and key scenes that a lot of asexuals will have like had to contend with like in their ace journey, and you really see her like have a lot of like ace phobic moments in this book, which I think is really, again, refreshing to see and to read. Well, I guess it's refreshing refreshing in the way that like if you are asexual or aromantic or on that spectrum, that it's kind of refreshing in a way to see that you are not alone in having to go through those moments. Not that those moments makes it any better, but I should say, at least for like me, from my perspective, like being like, oh yes, like that is so frustrating, like relating to the frustration that the character feels in a way. And I think also because like ace phobia and arophobia aren't like widely publicized, it can feel a bit alienating perhaps at times when you go through those things, but seeing that in fiction is really refreshing. Obviously that's not the only like ace and arrow experiences we want to see on page, which is why this week is great to see like ace and arrow people just thriving, just living their best lives. Do you know what I mean? So overall, I had a good time. Was it like amazing to me? No, because I think that a lot of it was like quite basic. Sorry to say. The reason how I found this manga is because I was listening to it. I was listening to the Ace Couple podcast. Reese was going through some comics with ace representation, right? And I think it's just a little bit basic for me. Just a little bit basic. I mean, it's slice of life, so there's no like main plot line that's carrying you through the story, which is like common theme that I've seen in the mangas that I've read. But then we've got nothing carrying the plot forward, but we've also got these like ace phobic and homophobic moments. Like I don't feel like it brings any nuance to those moments apart from displaying those things. So then it's like, okay, it's okay. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like, I don't know, it just like, it didn't have the plot and it didn't have nuance, so then it just was left at being it wasn't earth shattering to me. Will I read the second one? Probably. Will I read the third one when it comes out? Probably. So it's one of those things, isn't it? It's just one of those things where it's like, it's very difficult. guys, I think you are slowly coming to see like every slightly pink item I have in my wardrobe. But I'm here to talk to you about role playing, and everyone who I have seen on Booktube talk about this, they've loved it. They've loved it. So I guess it was really good for me to read because it also has demisexual rep in it, which is really beautiful. So basically, we follow these two middle-aged gamers. One of them is Maggie, and she's 48. And when we meet her, she's quite introverted. I mean, that's the key word you should take away when you think about Maggie. Like, social interactions and her, they just don't mix. And mainly because she's like she just don't fuck with many humans. Do you know what I mean? She's just like, humanity, humans, they a lot, right? But when we meet her, her son is going off to college. And when he's off to college, he's like, Mom, I would like you to get out there more and like do some more stuff. And so she's like, okay. And so she joins this gaming guild. And on this gaming guild, she meets another player who their code name is Otter. And she believes that they're like this young college-aged kid, right? But in reality, they are actually Aiden. And Aiden's 50 years old. And he's newish to town because he's there to like look after his like aging parents. He is a bit better with humans, but he's still a bit like introverted, and like his interactions with other humans is also a little bit fraught. You know what I mean? And so then it just kind of follows them as they play online on these games together, and then obviously eventually they do fall in love. But it comes at the very end of this book, or towards the end of this book, because as I said, this book has demisexual rep, and it comes from Aiden. And what I thought was really beautiful about this book was, not only was it beautiful to see like middle-aged characters falling in love, but it was beautiful to see because Aiden was discovering his sexuality throughout this book, like learning that he's demisexual, because he's already bisexual, sorry, but he's also demisexual. And I really enjoyed seeing that, because I think that you can discover and find out extra things about your sexuality and how you identify at any age. But I think that in the fiction that I have previously read, they tend to be like more younger people, like teens or like young adults who are discovering themselves. But it's really beautiful to see someone who's like 50, they're in their middle age, and then yet they're still like unlocking facets of themselves or putting words to things that they felt throughout all of these years, but they couldn't necessarily talk on before. So I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed their dynamic as well, because I think people have said like black cat golden retriever, I think is what people would call this book. I mean, me personally, I don't know if I would use that terminology, but it definitely is that sort of like, she's a little bit more gruffy, and he's very sweet. His sweetness has layers to it, and I think the main thing that I enjoyed was that she didn't let anyone mess about with him. She was like, talk to me, I talk back. That was the energy. Not Black Cat golden retriever, it was talk to me, I talk back. And I really enjoyed seeing that. In this book though, there is like some damaging like acephobia, but predominantly homophobia, right? Or biphobia even, I should say. Definitely biphobia. So just a word of warning for that. So overall, I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I really did enjoy it. It's not gonna be a favorite for me though, unfortunately. Why is it not a favorite? I don't know. It just didn't have something. It just didn't have that to like tip me over into that love section, and I can't really put my finger on why, because I think I did objectively enjoy a lot of the aspects of this book. So that's kind of hard for me. I think if anything, it's just that I had to suspend my disbelief a little bit at some of the things that were going on. Like, they just weren't really 100% believable. Like, just a little bit. Or like, it just wasn't 100% believable. I think that's what drew me out of the book, and it made it a book and not a story that I was experiencing. Do you understand? I hope you get that. But anyway, that's that. I shall speak to you after I've read the next book. very distressing conversation with you whilst I self-soothe with ice cream. Specifically Madagascan vanilla. Yeah. Anyway, I'm DNFing this book by R.M. Virtues. Yeah, I am just gonna DNF it because this vlog, and it's a soft DNF. I actually want all of you guys to go and read it because the way I have heard people talking about this book is like it's friggin' amazing. Everybody loves it. For example, there was this amazing live on it. There was a queer romance readathon, and there was all of these booktubers who absolutely loved it. It looks amazing. I'm so happy. I am going to read it again, just not in the context of this specific video, and I'll explain why. So when I started reading this, I immediately struggled. This is an ace Valentine's Day, you know what I mean? And immediately when you start off the book, Hades and Persephone have like this instant attraction to each other. Bearing in mind, Hades is supposed to be demisexual, and they have this instant connection, and I really struggle with that being the case while he's demisexual. Now, I'm not the person with the most information. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not the person with the most information. To the point where I'm like, I need my ace couple podcast to go read it and go into it. So I'm gonna just say from how I perceived it. They had this instant attraction, and I'm like, but he's demisexual. And the instant connection that they have seems sexual in nature. And now it might not be specifically that, you know, maybe it's like that sensual connection because she's, I don't know, maybe it is something more like, you know, talking about like split attraction theory, whatever. So maybe it wasn't just like purely sexual, but they just do have like this undeniable chemistry from the start. And I've seen so many good reviews talking about that, but I'm like, is that not kind of like the antithesis to demisexual? The whole point of, well, not the whole point, I shouldn't say that, but my understanding of demisexuality is that it's not an instant connection, is that it's built after an emotional platonic relationship with someone. So riddle me that. And I really tried. As I said, I only got like 10% of the way into this book, and I really tried. So I read all the Goodreads reviews, and as I said, I looked up, and that's how I found this live where they all talk about it. I didn't watch all of the live because at this point I didn't really decide if I was going to DNF it, and there were some spoilers and stuff. But from the parts I did watch, like they weren't talking about the demisexual rep in it. And the only Goodreads comment I found one. And it was like, yes, I felt seen. Isn't that funny? I felt seen in a Goodreads comment where they too were like, I'm not demisexual, but, you know, so take it with a grain of salt, which I appreciate, right? And also the thing is, even if you are demisexual, like, you know, one person a community does not make. One person sharing their own experiences is still one person sharing their own experiences at the end of the day. So I did appreciate that. But they said, I know instant attraction exists, but it seems unrealistic between Hades and Persephone. It's not like Hades is starving for companionship or spring in a modern city of thousands. I don't understand that part, but anyway. And his instant attraction to Persephone seems contradictory to being demisexual. The demi-friends I have shared that their romantic attraction grew after being friends for a period of time. Hades obsesses over Persephone after meeting her once and sharing half a drink. And I'm like, yeah, I don't understand. So, on that basis, I'm going to DNF it from this video. I actually will pick it up again because, as I said, this author was targeted by Kate Rain. And I personally will make sure to follow this author and make sure to read their works because they're doing the damn deed. They are doing the damn deed. And do you know what? This book has been described as very spicy, and I do love a spicy book. And I have read many retellings. In fact, one of the most retellings that I read is Hades and Persephone. So this really should be my kind of book, and I reckon it is. And it's got trans rep in terms of Persephone, so I'm very happy. I want to read this. Just not right now. Just not when I'm trying to read ace representation. And I'm not really sure how positive I think this ace rep is going to be. And I reckon I probably wouldn't have even blinked at the demisexual rep in it if I had read it in a different context. But off the back of reading so much ace content in terms of like graphic novels and books and the role model and all of that, to go off the back of that to this, it makes it even more apparent. Because For example, the last like novel that I read was role playing, where the main character, the guy, he is demisexual, and again, like immediately he's like, I've hardly had any relationships. It wasn't like he saw her and they had an instant romantic connection. They had a platonic connection. Do you know what I mean? But that's not even how it is set up in this book from the introduction that I saw. It wasn't like he was attracted to her and he was like, oh my god. Like, for example, so it follows Persephone. Persephone is an aerialist, right? She's like all up in the ribbons, and it would be different to me if she was all up in the ribbons and he's like, oh my god, like that is so cool, she's so talented, like that's amazing, I can't wait to talk to her, I really want to talk to her, like I want to find out more, like she's like, that's so intriguing. And they have this whole conversation and he's attracted to her not because of her physical attraction, but he's attracted to her because she's a cute, do you know what I mean? Like, he's curious. He's like, that's far removed from my life experiences. I would love to like connect with that person and chat to them. Like, they seem like they might be interested. It's not about the necessarily being instantly drawn to someone, because you can still be demisexual and instantly drawn to someone. But I guess it's the motivations behind the instantly drawnness in this book that is throwing me off, because it feels very much like instantly drawn, instantly connected for romantic or sexual reasons. But anyway, alas, I've spoken about that enough, so I just gotta get cracking to the next book. So it's gonna be a split between this one or the other one. I don't know the name of it, but I've got it on Scribd, so I'm gonna read that. Now, as I said, please go check it out. Hashtag support this author. Support this author. No, support this author for real. It's not even a joke. Support this author for real. I'm 10 toes down for this author. I really shouldn't use phrases that I don't know what that means. But basically, I'm here. I'm a stan. Again, I need to stop because I really don't know that much. But from the media that I've taken in of this author, I'm like, yeah, period poo. So I'm here for this author and I will read this book. When I want an erotic Hades and Persephone book, I will run back here. But right now, it's not giving me the asexual life that I want. Oh, sorry. Lastly, another thing is that I wanted to say is, I think that it could also be the case of, it goes more into his sexuality throughout the book, but I haven't got to it yet because I've soft DNF'd it. They could very much have like this whole explanation of his sexuality and stuff, and they could really get into it. I just haven't got to that bit. And I did try to have a quick little search on Kindle, but I didn't want to have too big of a search because I didn't want to spoil myself, because as I said, I will go back to it. I don't know anyone who's read it. Like, I don't actually like personally know anyone who's read it, so I can't ask either. For context, by the way, I don't know if I've said it in this video, but I would define myself as grey ace if someone was to ask me. Well, I think I might just tell them I'm asexual just for simplicity, but like, I'm not fully asexual. I'm firmly like grey ace. I'm not demisexual though. So that's my context. So my context is that I'm still very new to engaging with any media in that way. I'm being called by my mother, but I'm very new to engaging in any media outside of myself and any community outside of myself and my own life experiences. As I said, one person does not a community make, so it's not like my opinion on this book is completely valid. I don't know. As I said, I'm not demisexual. On to the next, babe. Love that. So where is it? Where's it going? Guys, I really love this. Oh guys, I absolutely love this. You can't see both me and the screen at the same time, but there is this thing here where it gives you at the start an image description of the cover, and that is just the level of inclusivity that, you know what, I've never even thought about, but I absolutely love. And going forward, I'd love to see more of. You know what, I absolutely love this. Highlight that immediately. And it's also got content warnings, which again, this author immediately is just giving inclusivity vibes, including like ableism, etc. So I'm loving it. So anyway, I haven't even read the first word yet, so no. guys, so in my lunch break today, I finished the book by Zan West. I don't know. Do you know what? I saw someone talking about how it was Kenya. Sorry, I don't know why I said someone. It was Kenya. She is who I aspire to be. No, not really. But in terms of her cleaning, she was talking about how she hates chaos in her house, in her life, right? And I wish I was that person, because look at my wall. I swear, has my wall ever been good? And it's now the point. And do you know what? The reason why it's so bad is because I've like tried to not rip the paint from the wall, and I've proceeded to rip the paint off the wall anyway. So I might as well have just like got a nail and hammered into the wall, and we wouldn't be in this situation. But anyway, so if you ignore that, and I'm sorry, Kenya, because there are some people like Kenya who sees this in the back of my videos every single time, and it jars them like deeply down in their soul. And I must apologize to you, but it just doesn't jar me deeply down in my soul. I just don't really care about it that much. So I will fix it eventually. When I have do you know what I mean? It's like the list of things that I care about is just so low down. It's just so low down. So when I'm living good in life, everything else is sunshine and rainbows, I'll get to it. I mean, I could do that, or I could film and post a video, which I already struggled today, so no promises. Anyway, let's get back to the real point of this. At my lunch break, I finished the book, Their Troublesome Crush. And I feel like I don't know. I had a good time, and yet. That's how I feel about this book. I had a good time, and yet. So this book, I don't think I've actually spoken to you about what it is. Let me put you down, because my arm is starting to ache. And maybe this will stop you from seeing that chaos there. This Troublesome Crush is about these two main characters, Nora and I want to say Elliot. I'm not sure though. I should double check. And I got it from Scribd. So if you have Scribd, I would recommend you pick it up, because this book, it basically follows Ernest, not Elliot, Ernest, right? Nora and Ernest. And they are metamors, two metamors, basically meaning that they are in an open relationship. Now, apologies if I get any of this terminology wrong. They're in an open relationship, and they share or I don't even know if that's what they would call it, because like, are they in an open relationship? They're not. I'm wrong. I'm really sorry. So basically, a metamor basically means that they both share a dom. Yeah, they are both subs to a particular dom. I believe that's correct now, right? And so that's what it is. And we open up the book, and Ernest has been in this relationship with Gideon, which is the name of their dom, for a while, and Nora is a newer sub to Gideon, right? So now they're trying to navigate this relationship as metamors together, and then it kind of then follows them to discovering that they might have romantic feelings for each other. That is important, because Ernest is demi-romantic. That's the basic of it. And what I want to say is this book is chock filled with so much representation. It was actually kind of beautiful. Like Ernest is Jewish, autistic, demi-romantic, fat, trans, man submissive is the list that they have here. And Nora is a Jewish, disabled, queer, fat, femme, cis woman. Switch. Sorry, I almost forgot the switch. Right? There's also an age gap, a 10-year age gap, but it's like one's 30 something and one's 40 something, which is really quite nice, because it's like, you know, showing some slightly older protagonists, which I enjoy. And so yeah, it's just got so much, like, even in those two characters alone, we've already got like a wealth of representation. Do you know what I mean? And did they say fat here? Yeah, they're fat, and I really enjoyed that representation. I feel like this is one of the best fat rep books that I've ever read, really and truthfully, because it wasn't like, I don't know, I don't want to shade other fat rep books, but it was just like, the way that it was done was beautiful to me, and not in a way that was like, you're beautiful in spite of your fatness. It was just like, she's beautiful and she's fat. And it wasn't a silent and she's fat. It was like, she's beautiful, she's fat, and it just is, and they both are. And it was just, I really enjoyed that fat rep actually. And as I said, Nora is disabled, so that was really good as well in terms of the representation. Like, they didn't just forget, like, it was a physical disability, and then that really like came into play whenever there was movement that Nora was doing, and I really appreciate that, because sometimes I feel like with, again, I'm not trying to shade other books, but with like physically disabled representation, sometimes as we get further into the book, we kind of drop the fact that navigating the world sometimes is still a navigation. And I can understand that, because it's like they're like in the heat of the book and they're like, we only have so many words. But I appreciate that, like, throughout this book, and it's not made the main topic, like, it's not the main topic of the conversation, it's just she picks up her cane and she keeps on moving. Do you know what I mean? But it's like we are at 90% of the way through the book and she still picks up her cane. If you understand me, I hope you understand me, right? So in that way, I absolutely love this book. And also, this is demi-romantic, and this is like the first like arrow spec book that I think I've read this week. Or let me not say that too tough, but definitely the most like focusing on the arrow specness of it all. And I thought it was really refreshing to see that, and to see that representation, really and truthfully. And so when it says them two negotiating about like them falling, I don't want to say falling in love, because that's not what they are, they're not falling in love, but they have a crush on each other, right? It was really good to see how Ernest, because Ernest is the one who's demi-romantic, how he works through that. And, you know, that is pretty much the majority of the book. I'm not going to lie. The majority of the book is Ernest working through that realization. But that is because he's demi-romantic. And to some people, be like, why are we still talking about this? But he's talking about this because this is rare for him. And this is something that he does need to take his time and work his way through. And that's part of his demi-romanticness coming to the fore. So, yeah, it's not like the majority of the book is about that. It's not really about their relationship. And also, I really appreciate that this book is kinky, but it's not sexy. I've never read a book, I don't think I've ever read a book that like actually goes into like kink culture. Like, actually, I'm lying to because actually what I mean to say is this is the first book that I've read where the kink culture is to do with sex. There we go, that's it. Like, in this book, they very much explore how these people have these kinks. I'm not saying these people like these people. I'm just saying these people because there's multiple people in this book who are all engaged in like different and various forms of kink. Is this video going to be monetized? Do I even get monetized by YouTube? I'm just saying, like, is YouTube going to be like, hold on a minute, what is she talking about in this video? But what was I saying? Yeah, that there are loads of people in this book who are engaged in kink in various different forms, right? And it's not inherently sexual. It doesn't have to be linked. It's not actually attached to sex for most of them in any way on the page. And I think that would be really refreshing. In fact, it was refreshing for me because I'm not engaged in like any of the kink subculture. So it was really informative, I guess, in a kind of way for me to see that and for me to be reminded of that fact that, like, no, it doesn't need to be to do with sex, and that is kind of how we see kinky equals sexy. Ernest, you can think of this as a spoiler or not, but Ernest and Nora in this book aren't sexually attracted to each other, but they do engage in kink together. I won't say any more than that. But yes, however, my problems with this book is that, stay with me, the writing, it was very written. That's how I currently can think of it. It was very written, like it was written. Did I even tell you that there were trans characters in here as well? Like, it's just like chock-a-block. Like, I've mentioned a couple, but I've only mentioned a couple of the ways that there's representation in this book, because in the author's note, the author was like, listen, if the characters themselves don't go into their gender or sexual identities, then you don't need to mention it in your review. And so I'm like, bet babe, we shan't. So, and if I've done that wrong, if I have, because you know what, like, even in this video, I attempt to read and educate myself through reading, but like, I still don't know what I'm on about. I'm gonna be very, very frank, I don't know what I'm going on about. at all whatsoever. So back to the author's note at the end. There was a bit that was saying about how Ernest is autistic, and the author themselves is also autistic, and they felt that it was really important for them not to have Ernest mask to the readers either, but he doesn't mask to his chosen family in this book. And they were saying that they think it's important that he doesn't mask to the readers as well. And that was really, really interesting. Because again, like, Ernest was very, to me, was like, I don't know, again, one of the, like, there's autism rep. I don't know, I'm really not trying to, I keep making it out like this book isn't like the other girls. But I'm not trying to make it that way. I'm just trying to explain that it's different. But without trying to make it seem like it's different. So it's hard for me. Yeah, man. Like, okay, so for example, Ernest is talking about like how when he gets overstimulated and he needs to stim, and he talks about just lots of things to do with his autism, his communication, everything like that. And I just thought that was really, really good to see, and it did feel honest and frank that way. There we go. So it did feel very honest and frank, and also, I guess, behind the curtain, you can take your mask off here and just be frank with the readers as well. So I really enjoyed that. However, yeah, as I said, the writing was very simplistic. I want to say, maybe, is that the word? It just felt very written, like very much like, and then they went to the shops. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. It just didn't feel smooth. Like, it felt like someone told someone a story and then they wrote the story. Does that make sense? It didn't feel like this was the story. It felt like someone told the story to someone who then wrote the story. I hope you understand what I mean. It kind of feels like an autobiography of a story. You know what I mean? You know how like an autobiography is just like a little bit removed? Because it's like, oh yeah. So then there was this person and they went to do this. And on this day they went to do that, because they're recounting a history of events. I guess that's kind of how this book feels. And if you get that, you get that. If you don't, I'm really sorry. I'm trying to think of how else to phrase it. And yeah, to the point where, for example, the text messages, I really, really struggled with the text messages. They were really jarring to me. They wrote, I don't know if it's exactly text messages. It might have been another form of like social media, but they texted as the way they spoke, like including all of the things like or ooh, you know, all of those things that you say when you're speaking, but you don't text, you drop out of text. Like, text talk isn't exactly the same. It doesn't mirror how you speak in real life. But in their texting, it mirrored how they spoke, and that felt very jarring to me. As in, not jarring as in, oh, that's jarring, annoying. Jarring as in, it jarred me out of the story. Like, it didn't feel believable or realistic to me. So overall, I had a good time, but it's very, very mixed. It's very mixed. I'm learning on the job. So that is literally from me at the beginning of this video to me at the end of this video. We're different people. I've learned more, to be quite frank with you. Well, hopefully I should have, considering how many pieces of arospec pieces of literature I've read, right? So anyway, guys, I'm going to peace out. I'm going to enjoy the sun whilst it lasts. I'm supposed to do some exercise today. Should I go for a run? I'm going to go for a run while the sun is still up, which will be fine. That's to do with the 1950s, because apparently the British had some runners in the night. I'm sorry, Kenya! Don't look! Don't look. But yeah, apparently there were some runners in the 1950s in the UK. So I'm going to go for a run. Wish me luck. Hi guys, so I have just finished reading How to Be Ace, a memoir of growing up asexual, and I think this is going to be the last book that I read for this vlog. Now, I enjoyed this. This is a graphic memoir, and I've seen lots of people on like Booktube reading graphic memoirs, and I've always wanted to like get into them, but I just haven't. So this is my first one, and I think it's quite a nice introduction to graphic memoirs for me. So basically, this book just follows the main character from her childhood all the way until, you know, until she's an adult, and it just follows her discovering herself as a memoir of self-discovery and finding out that she's asexual. And so you really go on that journey with them, in the fact that like when they're young, they're just like, what's wrong with me? All of a sudden everyone starts talking about sex, and they're like, what's going on? Like, do you know what I mean? And so it was really good. I think that this would be really good for people who don't know that much about asexuality, because it is quite a 101 in that way, because it goes into like what is asexuality, what is like the arrow a spectrum, all of that stuff, like the split attraction model. It goes into like some of these like core things that I think that if you have a little bit of knowledge on asexuality and aromanticism, you would already know. And like it goes into a lot of the things that I think that a lot of asexual people would have experienced growing up, in terms of like those common like phrases and sayings, like you just need to find the right person and all of that stuff, right? And one of the things that I do like as well is that the author doesn't like make themselves look better in their discovery into becoming asexual, into identifying themselves as asexual. I don't know if I phrased that right, but do you know what I mean? Because like she speaks about times where she was in relationships with people and how she didn't necessarily navigate that well, because she didn't know how to articulate the fact that, or it's not even that she didn't know, it was just like it was hard to navigate wanting to be in a romantic relationship with someone but not wanting to be, you know, to be sexual with them, right? So that was like really good. I really appreciate that. And then she's like, yeah, you know, I didn't treat him the best. And I think that's really good, and I think that's really refreshing to see as well, because you know what, like obviously, well, I should say obviously, because I don't know, I'm not going to speak for nobody else, but like we try our best, but at the same time, like going through life, we are a villain in someone else's story. And this is something that I've been thinking about for a while. Like, you don't set out to be a villain, and you can make an offhanded comment, but that offhanded comment, you never know how that's going to land with someone. And especially I think as you're growing up and as you're identifying yourself, you fumble and you make a lot of mistakes. You're very heavy-handed. And so, for example, she's like, I wasn't the best. I didn't know how to deal with my own shit, and I might have inadvertently hurt others with it, like by being in a relationship and then going cold on the person, because I'm like, I don't want to have sex with you, but I couldn't say I'm asexual, I don't want to have sex with anyone, you know what I mean? And so I really resonate with that, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah, man. So overall, it was good. And also there is like a green purple motif going through here, like those are like some of the prominent colors. I also did a little green purple placement right there, in case you've seen that, which I thought was quite nice, and it's very subtle for the most part, that you don't really realize it. So overall, it was a good time, it was a good experience, but I am thinking that I'm done with any ace or arrow spec books at the moment, because I need to get back into my 1950s month. So because of that, this is it, guys. I've read so many things, and I want to apologize, because at the start of this video I said, oh yeah, I want to read Ace. It's Ace week next week. I was wrong. It was Arrow week this week, right? Off of the back of Valentine's Day. It's like the week after Valentine's Day, right? So that's misinformation, and that's really shitty of me to do. And it's because I didn't pay enough attention when I saw it on social media. I literally was just scrolling, but like, and I didn't pay attention, and then it just like, but it planted a seed in my brain, and I'd already started this video before I went to go and like probably check out what I had seen. So I should have kept my mouth shut until I did my research instead of talking before that. So as I said at some point in this video, the person who started this video is different to the person who's ending this video. And so I hope that you've enjoyed this video anyway. I hope you enjoyed seeing some like Arrow Ace books. Because I've enjoyed reading them. I really have. I really have. It's been really, really fun. Really, really enjoyable. And it's like, wow, there's so many books that like I didn't even know existed before I started this. So it's a reminder to like for me, it's a reminder for me, like when these things come around, to even though it doesn't necessarily fit into your plans, you might not be able to pick up the readathons in the way that you want to pick up the readathons, but even just challenging myself to do this, even though it was like bun readathon, like I didn't really do the readathon exactly how they wanted, it still encouraged me to pick up all of these books, and I don't know when I would have done that. So more love. Anyway, guys, see you from one person who loves pink and red when it comes to Valentine's, and I will see you next year for whatever I do for Valentine's next year. Bye, guys.